What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And yeah, you read the title of the video correctly. It's time to sell. It's time to sell some of these cabinets. And it's time to part with some cabinets that are pretty special to me. These aren't just regular cabinets. These are projects. We'll start with I guess the least impactful. The one that probably means the less to me, and that's going to be Shack Jam. Yeah, it's an XL cabinet. And yeah, it's a project that I put some time in, got creative. I think I made it look a lot better, in my personal opinion. But it's time to sell. It's time to let it go. It's time to make choices. And that is just, at the end of the day, it's just a game that didn't get a lot of play. So this is going to be sold tomorrow. You know, knock on wood that the guy actually shows up. So there's that. The next one's pretty tough, too. The next one's pretty tough. It's one in the back corner there. It is the 6-player X-Men, Project 6-Men. It's time to go. So I don't know if you can tell, but I've got the front face off of the riser. Getting that, I'm cleaning it up, sanding it smooth. Going to get some just black vinyl, put it on the front so that that cabinet looks, a little more presentable. I never really liked the front artwork on that. It was good for the first video, but one of those things, if you walk through the arcade, it just doesn't look right. So that's going to be changed, and that cabinet's going to be listed for sale. I know, crazy, right? Next one is another tough one. This is a real tough one. I guess these two are probably tied, for the ones that are toughest, I guess. And it's a Gran Turismo Anniversary, the racing rig, made up of expensive components, really some really good stuff. I mean, you got the Thrustmaster wheel for the PS3/PS4, and you got a sound bar in there. You got the seat that, that video got a lot of views because a lot of people are interested in buying a racing seat off eBay and figuring out if it's going to be worth the money, and my experience with that. So that was fun to make that video and kind of try that out and assemble that. That was one of the first videos that I did where I kind of just went raw and just, okay, start shooting me just assembling something. And it's a few mistakes, dropped some parts and pieces. But that was a fun video to shoot, and of course it eventually turned into what you see now. So yeah, so that's kind of tough to get rid of. That's that's one of the modern consoles too. One of the few modern consoles that are in the arcade, and it did get a lot of play. Love that force feedback, but it's time for it to go. Why? Why is it time for it to go? Well, it's the thing about downsizing, moving into the new house, having a space that's really going to be. It's just not. There's no way around it. It's not as big as the old arcade used to be. It's much smaller. That's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is that well, I guess the bad thing is I have to sell cabinets, but the good thing about it is that really kind of forces you to figure out what's important. What gets the most play? What do you enjoy the most? And it's kind of like some of the old movies that were made back in the day. One of my my favorite movie franchise of all time, Star Wars. That first movie was, it's known for its groundbreaking special effects, but it was really, a lot of that was born out of just necessity. They were doing the best with what they had. Same thing with the movie Jaws. The mechanical shark wasn't working very well, so they had to do the best of what they had. So when you have a small space that is an arcade, you can't just buy every game you've always wanted ever and have a place for it. Some of this stuff has to go. And I've got some pretty big plans for some new arcades. Some stuff that they're big ticket items, but it's something I've been wanting for a while. And when you really start thinking about this stuff, and when you get serious, when you start talking about spending not pinball money, but expensive arcade money, you got to start. You got to get real with yourself. I love this project, the racing cabinet. I love it. It does get a lot of play, but it's just there's just no nostalgia for that. It's something that it's very new, and I could probably swap the PS4 out with a PS5 and maybe get a different wheel and keep that going. But for me, it kind of looks out of place in the arcade. So that's got to go. And I think it's going to get a good home. I'm sure somebody is going to be able to enjoy that. I am going to include the PS4 with it. Obviously, they'll have to have their own games, whoever purchased it. But I wanted to sell it as a complete unit. And that takes me to probably the biggest heartburn. It's going to be Project 6-Men. I'm also going to sell that with the included PS3. That means it has the very rare undownloadable title X-Men, the 6-player version, the HD remake that came out in 09, 2010. I still have a copy of that on my other PS3, so I'm not losing that game forever. But I am losing that hardware. It includes a Super Slim, a PS3 Super Slim, just the 12 gigs, so it's solid state. So it should last hopefully for a very, very long time. But it's just another one of those cabinets where I love that game. I know a lot of people don't. They say it doesn't have a lot of replay value, but I just dig it. I just dig the art style. I'm into it. The voice acting and the characters and all that. I'm just into. But it's just too big. It's just too big. I thought about selling it many times, and I just couldn't part with it. And there was always room for it before. I thought about, well, let's just blow it apart and let's just make like an XL version. Let's just go bigger. But that doesn't really make any sense either with the small arcade. And trying to keep things in proportion. We have other plans for this big space here. We have big plans for this. This is going to be a giant family room. We're thinking big, fancy bar, probably not a pool table, but like, other stuff, a really nice ping pong table or other stuff. It's just not arcade themed stuff. I want the arcade to be a part of the house, but not take over the whole house. And it's not my wife telling me to say that. But she's definitely on board with that part of it. But I really want to keep it contained in there. And I want every square foot of that arcade to pop. I want it to punch. I want every addition in there to be something that people gravitate towards. I want every game in there to be a banger. Every single one. Whatever form that takes. A really good arcade 1-up XL type game. An MVSX, a Unico Nova Blast, something that's really going to have some pop. Original arcade games. I only have a space for so many racers, and this was just taking up a space for one of those racers. The driving cab was, and then the 6-player. It just takes up too much wall space to be just one game. So it is time to sell. This isn't clickbait. These cabinets are going up. This is going to leave, tomorrow. I sold my. I just sold tonight, actually, a few hours ago. Alien vs. Predator, the shell, the original shell. And even though I just transferred the guts into another cabinet, that was actually tough to get rid of. These projects built this channel, you watching along with me as I built it, as I overcame different obstacles, some frustration, artwork choices that were questionable. You stuck with me through all that, and I appreciate it. And the great thing about video is that those projects will live on forever, as long as YouTube is still up and running. So we're never going to lose those. We can always go back and look at that. I can always go back and look at what I did in those projects, and that's going to affect projects moving forward. Projects will never end on the channel, but it's time for these projects to find a new home. And my kids are older, but they don't have their own place, and they don't have their own place that's large enough to, house one of these big bad boys. So what we're going to do is we're going to sell these for a fair price, and we're going to roll that into some big ticket items. Talk about that pop, talk about that bang for your buck. The square footage in there is going to be filled with some really nice stuff. Stuff that's not going to be so easily found on Craigslist or Facebook. Stuff that you really got to kind of search for. And I've got a few things in mind, but we gotta get some money going. So that's what we're going to do. Also, memberships, super chats, you guys simply watching the videos and sharing them makes a difference. It has a big impact. It really does. So don't think that your small contribution is actually small. No, it all adds up to something big, and it helps me do this, and it helps me share this with you. So with all that being said, I want everybody to take one last look. And if you're in the Cincinnati area and you want to get your hands on one of these, look for the listing to be coming up very soon. And I appreciate everybody once again for hanging out with me and going along with these builds. But it's time to rip off the Band-Aid. We got to keep going. We got to keep moving forward and get more stuff. I think stuff is going to be a little more, it's going to be cooler, a little more nostalgia, and something you're not going to find at every arcade. I want this arcade to be special. Once again, to wrap it all up, these are going, but I'm staying, and we got more to do. And I hope you come with me. And thank you so much for stopping by, checking out the channel. God bless, and I will see all of you next time.